Hey everybody, welcome back to Laptop Seniors. This is a retirement channel for the most part. A lot of the people that will be watching this channel, are people who are retired, or they're thinking about living in different parts of the world, or they're just thinking about retirement and how do I pull that off? And we've had so many conversations in so many different countries and in so many different places. So I'm going to go through 5 things today that I think you should know, particularly if you're thinking about retiring, or you're going to retire. I mean, everybody retires at some point. In this day and age, given the way the companies are, you may not even be aware that you're about to retire, unfortunately. Let me give you 5 things that I think you should know. Number 1, it's the big one. On the day, I mean the day after you retire, you are a nobody. It doesn't matter what you were before. You could be, they had like $100 million conglomerate and, per year, and the next day, you're nobody. Nobody wants to know your opinion. Nobody really cares about you. I mean, obviously your family does, but the people that you worked with, and you're gone. You're over with. It's a weird phenomenon. When I was working, I ran a $50 million division. Every year we brought in $50 million of gross, and 25 million hit the bottom line. I had about 250 people working for me. And you go like, oh, that's pretty decent. Next day, total nobody. I could have been a homeless person. That's as fast as it happens. And you have to deal with it. For a lot of people, it becomes easy because I've encountered people who are like me, where I hit the wall. I didn't want to work anymore. I just was done. I did my 45, 50 years of working, and it was like, I gotta go. And so it was easier because I didn't care. But then there's other people who, a lot of their life is wrapped up in the work. Sometimes, you can walk away, and other times it's hard to walk away from all of it. But all of a sudden you're out of it, and you have to adjust to being a nobody. Number 2, boy, this is always the number 1 question when somebody's coming up on retirement. Am I going to be bored? I don't know if I'll be sitting at home going what do I do? What do I do? Let me put that in the back burner at the moment for you, because I can guarantee you from talking to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of retirees, for some reason, I don't know what actually happens, your life will change so that you don't even know where the day went. You're going to wake up, and let's just say you sleep in a little bit longer than normally getting up at 7 o'clock and going to work. You're going to wake up at maybe get up at 8:39. You're going to putter around the house a little bit. You're going to do some stuff, and then you're going to kind of look up, and it'll be like midnight, and you go where'd the day go? I wanted to get a haircut 2 months ago, and I still haven't got one. What's happening? Your day will fly by, and no one really that I've ever talked to really has any explanation for that. So bottom line is, you will definitely not be bored. Number 3, money. Ooh, that always becomes a big issue when you're retired. And whether you have income coming in, which would be a little less of a problem, I guess, depending on what you spend. But definitely when you're on a fixed income, whether it's Social Security or pension, or a little bit of both of those, money becomes a really big issue. And what's really interesting is, if you invest, and you're used to investing things, your thought process changes from trying to make money to just not trying to lose money. Your big concern is going to be, I just don't want to go backwards. I want to keep what I have. If I can grow it, fine. But if I can't, okay, that's okay too, which is really tough now in the age of inflation. If you're running at 9% inflation, if you don't grow that, whatever you have as a nest egg, if you don't grow it by 9%, you actually are going backwards. And one of the other things, which I've read on a ton of investment sites and investment research stuff, because I do buy some investment research stuff, and they all, at some point in their newsletters, come around to this for retired people. It's really good to maintain some other source of income that's ongoing. In other words, it's not a pension. It's not Social Security or social insurance. It's not that type of stuff. It's something where maybe you're consulting, if you can, or you're doing some odd jobs on the side. If you're a carpenter, it's okay, maybe you have fun making stuff and you actually get to sell it. Or you're, selling stuff on eBay or whatever. Just some other thing. It might be a hobby, it may not, where you actually have another income coming in that you can count on. It's not a full income, but at the very least, keep pace with what you're losing, on inflation. Number 4, being an expat or moving to another state. And now a lot of people, they decide to, I'm in the north, it's cold, I don't want to do this anymore. I can sell my house for a pretty good profit if you're in the north, and because it's appreciated a lot, I can go down south, Florida, Texas, Carolinas, Arizona. I can go down there and get the same house and have a beautiful home and still have half my cash from my original house. A lot of people think that way, and rightly so, and a lot of people will be doing that. Other people, they want to leave the country because they've heard about places where it's infinitely cheaper to live and they're safe and healthcare is good and all that other stuff. There's a lot of places like that. Panama immediately comes to mind, Uruguay, Argentina, anywhere in Europe really, although a lot of those places will not be cheaper, but some are. Spain will be, depending on where you go. Definitely, Eastern Europe places, which are totally fine. Thailand, there's a whole bunch of places where you can live a great life in a different country. But that entails downsizing, and certainly if you're going like to Malaysia or Panama or some other country other than something close where maybe you could drive stuff like Mexico, another good place to go, you're going to want to get rid of all your stuff. Again, downsizing to the max. Get rid of it all and then buy sparingly what you need. The other thing that goes along with that, probably a little bit less if you're in Florida or Texas or Arizona or somewhere in the US. But if you go to another country, what usually ends up happening is particularly a country with diverse environments. The average person who retires and moves, they move, unless they buy something and get stuck with it, they move 3 to 4 times. So the obvious thing is, again, if you're going out of the country, is to go out and rent. And then only when you're sure of, I love this place, we've met a lot of friends in this place, I find I know everything around this place, the restaurants are good in this place, so therefore you're going to buy in this place. But if you don't actually love whatever it's going to be this place, just keep renting, and just keep moving until you find that place. Again, probably moving to Florida, you're probably going to be probably okay right out of the gate finding a place. Although you may want to go to Jacksonville and you find out because you've rented there for 6 months or a year that you kind of don't like that, or maybe it's not quite as warm as you want. Maybe you want to go a little bit more south, Boca or Orlando or Miami. The other thing that comes up, and it's sort of very counterintuitive, is if I leave the United States or Canada, or if I leave my European country or wherever you normally live, and I go to a foreign country with a different language, how am I going to meet people? We're probably going to be alone there. We'll be all by ourselves, and we're going to be older, and nobody to count on, don't have very many friends. I can assure you, from living in a bunch of different countries, when you go to somewhere, you're going to find, you just have to go to a couple expat meetings, and they're usually always online. You can find them looking on Facebook, like expats Coronado, expats Panama City, expats Montevideo, Uruguay, expats Turkey, I don't know. You'll find expats who are already there ahead of you, and they've been living there for a while, and they have friends. And then you go, like when we were in Uruguay, when we were living there, after I retired, wanted to see how that was, and went and lived there for almost a year. We're there, and the first thing we did, we went to a luncheon for expats, and you go in and you're like, I'm not quite sure what to expect, but we go in and there's like 40 people there. There's like 20 couples, a couple single guys and stuff, young guys too, which was really, a surprise because they were like in their 20s, and they're down there, and you instantly start, exchanging, business cards or phone numbers or emails and all that sort of stuff. And then what ends up happening is you sort of look up about maybe a month later, 3 weeks later, and you got like 10 couples as friends, and you're going and doing potluck dinners at each other's home. And you're cooking like maybe twice a week for yourself. The rest of the time you're out at other places, other people's places, and you're eating there with a group of the same friends. I thought, and Vivi thought, that we made more friends faster on the road in foreign countries every single time than we ever made at home. Particularly when I say home, I don't mean home where, we were working and living, for ages. Obviously, you have a lot of friends there, but we have a place in Orlando. We've had it for 13 years. And you know how many people we know there? Like virtually no one, because, we're snowbirds there. And, we go down and maybe you'll meet somebody and you get friends with them, and then you come back the next year and they're gone. They work at Disney. They're usually in IT, or they work at Universal or some other place. They're there for a couple of years, and then, they get enough money, they can buy a house and they move off, and like, okay, starting all over again. But when you're in a foreign country, those people that are there that you meet, they're there and they're not going anywhere. We're in Boquete and we're there, I don't know, like 4 or 5 days. Viv finds, oh, look, there's a happy hour for expats at this restaurant. So we go there and, again, there's like 20, 25 people there. We immediately get friends with them. We then go to lunch about 3 or 4 days later, because one guy was in a band and everybody wanted to go see him play in the band for this luncheon place. And so, we got really good friends with the people there, and that was about a week and a half. And I mean, you're pretty tight friends. And what ends up happening, because why you become a tight friend to these people, is everybody is in the exact same headspace. Usually, this is the way everybody is. They usually left their home country because they didn't want to be there, or they sort of got forced out of it. In other words, their standard of living, being retired, wouldn't be their standard of living that they were used to. And they're smart enough to look around and go, where can I actually have a standard of living for the rest of my life that's good, like I've had it, spending less money? And they look and they find a country where they can get that, and they go through all the usual criteria. Is it safe? Are the people friendly? Is it possible that I can learn how to speak the language? Healthcare good? All of those things. And, and then they pick up and go. 3/4 renting, 1/4 have been there long enough that they start to buy something. And everybody knows the infrastructure. There's tons of people to call on. How do I do this? How do I do that? Well, here, I'll come over to the house and help you. No. You don't pay that. Here's how the gas works, propane. All those things, you immediately have a pretty decently close friends out of the gate that help you with all of that stuff. Just like wondering about being bored, where you won't be bored, you will not be lonely. Going to another state, that's going to probably take you a while longer. Other people are living their own lives and they are where they are. It's just like you meeting someone who came from somewhere else in your hometown. A lot harder for them to get to know you. But when you show up somewhere where everybody just got thrown in from somewhere else, way simpler. And finally, number 5, part of this is my experience. Part of this is talking to not everybody, but a decent amount of people that I'm going to throw it in here. Somewhere down the road, you're probably going to need a hobby, something that's on the side, because you will sort of start get antsy about doing stuff. It will not be in the first year, second year, third year, fourth year. For me, it sort of showed up in like year 10. It's like 10 years of retirement. We're traveling, everywhere, having fun, doing stuff. And then finally we kind of got back and we were sort of pulling back on the travel. And, it's like, I'm getting antsy to do something. So YouTube became my thing, my hobby, my whatever it is. And, and I talked Vivian to coming along and doing this, with me. But you're going to need to find something that occupies your time, not all of it, just a little bit of your time, that you're into. I forgot to mention it, but I'll do it here. If you want to email me, that'd be great. It's laptopseniors@gmail.com, laptopseniors@gmail.com. If you want to email me, I'll send you a spreadsheet. The first year that we retired, and we were definitely traveling a lot. We moved to Uruguay. After that year was up and we're kind of back home again, I had this sixth sense that, man, you know what? That seemed like I spent a lot of money, like way more than I expected to spend. And I started going back through stuff and I was like, yeah, I did, but I didn't know how much. So for 13 years, including right now, whenever we spend anything, I sit and take that receipt and I put it into a spreadsheet. And it's keeping track of what's being spent in particular categories, and it's weighing that against the income that I know is coming in. So it's like, here's Social Security, here's what pension is, here's what that is, here's what this is, here's the total gross, here's the total net. Because of the net, this is what I'm going to pay in taxes, here's what's going to drop that I actually get to keep. And that's getting weighed against what we're spending. Now, I don't mind going over it a little bit, but I don't want to be going over it a lot. And, you know, my best guess is for the first year, I think it blew over by like 40 grand. You know, and it was like, you know, whoa, hello. You know, so that's 40 grand out of savings. And I didn't know it was happening. I kind of had a sense of it kind of about 3/4 into it. Now, if I'm worried about something like that, I just go look on the spreadsheet and go, you know, how am I going here? Because day by day, it's keeping track and telling me where I am. So it's like, hey, I'm 6 months into it. We're halfway into the year. Oh my God, I'm 10 grand over. Okay, let's reel that back in and get that back to, you know, being 1 grand over or even or 1 grand under. Like COVID was great. We ran like, I don't know, 10 grand under, you know, for that entire time that nobody could do anything. Although it was a terrible life when you couldn't do anything too. But anyway, just wanted to throw that out. And I hope that helps and all of the other stuff. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us with YouTube. And of course, when you're subscribed, you get to know that there's going to be new videos coming up and new stuff like this. And just hit that bell right there for notification that there is a new video. And until there is a new video, see ya.